I feel as though what I have to say will help you out a lot. So stick around. I want to talk about the negative implications that can come as a result of watching the David Goggins, Rocky Balboa style edits. You know those videos of with a bit of funk music behind them and really kind of pump, get up. You know the video. You know what I'm talking about. The problem that can come with watching these videos, and more specifically the negative implications that it can have on your own journey, is the fact that it condenses down the hard work and the grind at large into a 30-second format in which it makes you feel as though that is the way your life should be all the time. Now, the truth is, when it comes to self-improvement, is that you spend a very small amount of time actually in this hyper, let's get it, fucking hell, I'm a champ sort of mode. You don't spend a lot of time there. And the reason that you don't spend a lot of time there is because the fundamental, the essence of self-improvement is consistency. And with consistency comes monotony, because you're doing the same thing every day. If you're working towards something, which, let's be truthful, is what the grind is, it's working towards a goal on a pretty much, if not daily basis, you're working at something. If you do the same thing every single day, and at that, something that's difficult, be it physical or mental, it gets boring. And that's the absolute truth, is it gets boring. And with that, I think these videos can send a negative message to you, in the sense that you might go through the motions with self-improvement, never actually attain the feeling that you get from watching those videos, this kind of pumped up, yeah, I'm a fucking champ sort of feeling. You never attain that, because that's not the way that it is. And as a result of that, you get demotivated and you discredit yourself for what it is that you're doing. And with that, you might stop doing the thing. And the most unfortunate part of this is that the best piece of advice I could give to someone who is on the self-improvement journey is, if it's boring, you're doing it right. Because, as I touched on there, when you do the same thing all the time, which is what you have to do to be great at things or to improve, it gets boring because you're doing the same thing. If you are someone who constantly switches between things and has that inability to stay at something, you don't get the goals that these people strive for. And this is the truth. These videos glamorize difficulty. And though I don't object to that, because I think if you can glamorize it in a certain way, you can get people on board, I think they send a message that it is much more emotional than it actually is. Because truth be told, these videos evoke a definite emotion. You know the feeling that these videos give you. You watch one of those videos of Goggins run in with the funk music behind it, and you feel pumped, and you feel like, yeah, let me go and do something. Let me go and do some hard shit. And then maybe you will go and do some hard shit, and you'll feel good for doing that stuff. And that might stay for a while, but when you get into the throes of difficulty and discipline, you don't feel anything for what it is that you're doing. And it just becomes the norm. The glamorized feeling that is sold within these videos is, it quite quickly disperses, because you realize, actually, my motivation is gone, and no longer am I operating on the same wavelength of someone who's obsessed with something. When you're obsessed with something, it doesn't matter how hard the thing is. If you're obsessed with it, you're going to do it, and it's not going to be anywhere near as hard for you as it will for someone that's not obsessed. When you get out of that frame of mind in which things are flowing fluently because you've got motivation behind you, and when you step into the realm of thinking, I've done this every single day for the last 500 days, there's not a passion behind that anymore. And the biggest issue with this is these videos tap into what it feels like to do something 1,000 times and do it once. The only times when you get that real buzz that those videos give you is when you start, when you might go on a run straight after watching a Goggins video, or when you have when you've done something for such a long time that you have a breakthrough moment in which you recognize what it is that you've been doing and you understand. You go, fucking hell, I've done this 600 times in a row. And then you get that really pumped, I'm a fucking champion, and that those videos give you. What they do not say is that when you've done it 268 times, you don't think anything about that. The feeling that you get from doing something a obscure amount of times, irrespective of how many times that is, it could be 457 times. That's a lot of times. You won't feel anything when you do that. And this is not to discredit or rather, you know, tell people, oh, don't bother. Not at all. Because the beauty is that when you get those breakthrough moments, when you think, fucking hell, I've done this every single day for the last 2 years or a year or 6 months, whatever. When you get that feeling, you get all of the times before it in one burst. And I think the thing that worries me about these videos, and is why I wanted to make this video, was that it almost sells a false image. It doesn't sell what it actually means to be disciplined. Those videos do not tap into the absolute difficulty that lies within the consistency that is required. They tap into the height of the emotion. They tap into as good as it can be, not how it truly is. If you were to make the most honest self-discipline video of all time, one of those 30-second funk videos, it would just be one clip of the same thing for 30 seconds. It would just be of 3,000 days of doing the exact same thing. It would not be interesting. And that's the thing, is these videos have got all the cool edits and the music, and he's doing, you know, they're doing one thing and another thing, and it's variable. And truth be told, self-discipline and self-improvement and working towards goals are large in part not variable. For the most part, you will do the same thing all the time, in some variation at least. And that's another thing that people get disheartened on with these videos, is they're not obvious and they're not truthful about the fact that self-improvement is actually kind of boring. And I don't mean that in a bad way, to be honest, because I think the boredom that comes from self-improvement in itself is such a virtue, and it's such a good thing, because it just gives you this feeling about life. It makes you aware of what it is that you're doing, because you understand that when you get in that cold shower for the 787th day in a row, even though you don't know what day it is, you have this ingrained feeling of who it is that you are. But it's not romantic. And that's the thing with these videos, is they do romanticize discipline. And as I say, the thing that I would urge people to be aware of with these videos is not to be disheartened by them, because I think they can send this message to us in which we feel as though what we're doing is never enough. And the reason it's never enough is because you've got this video that speaks for the entire life of people. You don't see a video of David Goggins sat on the sofa eating ice cream. You do not see that video. It doesn't exist, you know. And the reason it doesn't exist is because it would at that point be a documentary into the life. And though I cannot say it enough times that I love David Goggins, and I will never ever ever discredit him for what he's done, because he deserves the credit, he is a human being. And with that, he's a human being that understands acutely well what it means to be disciplined. So he understands that you cannot do it all the time. It just doesn't work. Irrespective of the fact that physically you cannot sustain the work rate all the time. You just can't do that. Mentally, your mind is just not going to stand for it. Your mind is not going to be in a position in which it's happy to do the same thing every single day. That doesn't mean it won't do it, but it means it's not going to be happy doing it. Your mind will not have that motivational, yeah, let's get it every single day. It just will not happen. 90% of the time, the grind feels like nothing. It doesn't feel like this burst of emotion. It feels like an obligation. And it feels as though you are just doing this thing and you're just going through the motions, and this is just the way that you are. And do not get me wrong, you don't want to be any other way. This is the way you want to be. You want to be in a position in which you understand who it is that you are at your base. You understand that, yeah, this isn't the most interesting thing. There could be more interesting things, but if I do this thing 500 times, the reward and the prestige and the love for myself that I'm going to get is so great that it's worth the boredom. And that's where the long perspective comes in, which is another thing that is not evident in these videos. These videos are not... It is the classic Rocky Balboa. You've seen Rocky, right? The famous the scene, right? That is, 30 seconds, maybe? Maybe not even that. And in that time, he goes through like a fucking year. And it's not the same. And it does not... That little clip of what is supposed to happen over his entire training camp does not include all the times when you don't want to get out of bed, or you don't want to get in the cold shower, or it's hard to do something, or you're tired, or you can't be bothered to read a book because you've already read one. It doesn't include these things. And that is what is missing from these videos. And the unfortunate thing is, people will watch those videos and they will assume that that is the way self-improvement is. They will assume that self-improvement is this gritty, rosy sort of thing. It is glamorized, romanticized. It's supposed to be, wow, look at how cool this is, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to be so good, and I'm going to be amazing at these things. It does not account for the fact that you spend a significant amount of time doubting yourself. You spend a significant amount of time bored with what it is that you're doing, and you spend a significant amount of time not even really wanting to do it. It doesn't factor those things in. And what I'm getting to is that I'm worried that these videos bring people in and just as quickly repel them back out, because people have not got what they expected to get. And I understand that there is not a market for that in that sense. You cannot, if you were to say to the average person who wants to improve themselves what I've just said to you, that it's grueling and it's boring and it takes a long time and it's cold and it's dark and it's not anywhere near as fruitful, or tell a lie, it is more fruitful than those videos could ever put, but it's not as glamorous. If you were to say that to someone, they wouldn't do it. And the point is, you're not going to make a video that puts that out. He says whilst making a video that says that. You're not going to make one of those videos, a funk video, a 30-second funk video of David Goggins just walking or just running once and just going once. And it's not about that. It's quick, it's snappy, and it shows a lot, but misses out just as much. I think people watch these videos and they will think that self-improvement is something that it's not. It's not something that is constantly new and flash and interesting. It is quite often very boring. So with that being said, what do you do with these videos? Do you ignore them? Or, can you find a place for them? To be quite frank, I think with the knowledge of what it is to be genuinely improving, I think these videos have a fantastic place. Personally, I watch quite often, I wake up early and I'm in a cold shower, I'll stick a Goggins video, one of those videos I'm talking about now, I'll stick that on the side, and that kind of helps. It's like a support system, because you know that guy's a fucking tank. And at that, it makes you feel better about what it is that you're doing. They do definitely have a place for that. It's just making sure that you don't fall into the trap of thinking that what you're doing is not enough when it is, providing it is, of course. When you are someone who works hard at things, you can get into this paradoxical sort of scenario in which you don't feel like you're working hard because it doesn't feel the way that you anticipated that it would. These videos and people and just generally the way things are sell the idea much better than it actually is. As I say, they don't actually. It's strange, man. It's fucking weird, because the more that you work at something and the harder you work at something, it seems as though the level of doubt and the level of, am I actually as good as I think I am, or am I just terrible and I haven't worked anywhere near enough? The level of doubt that follows kind of that pattern just seems to increase the better that you get. It's the same with everything with this. It's, if you choose to be a nicer person, it means that any time that you're anything but nice, you're that much more worried about it and you're that much more concerned because it's such an effort. And it's the same thing with self-improvement and discipline. Is you are kind of under the impression that you should be doing things all the time. You should constantly be working at things. You should constantly be going for the goals and doing it the Goggins way. You should always be doing it. And then you do something that doesn't align with that. You'll sit and you'll have a tub of ice cream and watch Netflix, and you'll feel terrible for it. And you'll feel terrible because of things like these videos. These videos do not cover the fact that life is not one Rocky Balboa thing. There are so many different avenues that come within self-improvement and discipline. As I say, from the fact that it's the boring monotony droning on just doing the same thing, or the rest, that does not get mentioned. And what I want to talk about with rest is how much you need it for a start. But there was a video that I saw from Mike Israel, and fantastic, really great. If you don't know Mike Israel, look him up and go and look at his stuff. He's really funny and he's very smart. And he was saying about basically what is the best method of recovery, which I think is contingent with self-improvement and discipline, because you need recovery. You need mental recovery and you need physical recovery. And he said, to be quite frank, the best method of recovery is probably the thing that your discipline tells you not to do. If you are someone who is disciplined to go to the gym and goes for that, and you find yourself really tired, most likely at the point of which you require some rest, your brain will say to you, I really want to sit with a tub of ice cream and watch Netflix. And you won't do that because you feel bad about doing it. But the truth is, that is what your body needs. That is the best form of relaxation and R&R that you could give yourself. And the problem is with self-improvement is you can kind of fall into the trap. You can fall into the trap in which you do everything with that intensive purpose and you don't have the kind of switch off. And the switch off is the fact that, and this is what I'm getting to, I'm tying it back around now, I'm working it out, is self-improvement is a mode. It's an idea that you implement consistently. It's not the way you are as such. And what I mean by that is there are times, and with that there should be most of the time, where you do the hard thing and you do the right thing and you do the educational thing and you do what is good for you. There should also be an ability to remove yourself from that method and sit on the sofa. And that is the thing that doesn't get put across in these videos, and I'm going to bring that back, is none of these videos will ever say to you it is okay to sit on the sofa if you're tired and eat some chocolate. They will never ever say that. But as I say, with this, what I've just said about Mike Israel and what he said, that is such a good idea when it comes to keeping yourself afloat with self-improvement and getting through self-improvement, because it's fucking hard, man. It is hard work. And with that, you need to afford yourself the certain luxuries that you genuinely want. It's all well and good meditating because it relaxes you. That's fine. But if you're doing it in a work mode and it doesn't actually relax you, you just feel progressive for it, you're not actually resting as such. The rest you quite possibly need is just to sit on your phone and watch a video and have some crisps and just do nothing. And I want to kind of be careful with what I say with this, because I think this is a problem I've had in myself, is you can kind of float between the two. You can go hedonist mode, eat crisps all the time, and then you can go Goggins mode, eat crisps never. And there's like a happy medium between the two that you need to establish. And that is something that, to be quite frank, I think you just have to keep doing wrong until you get it right. This is something that Alex Hormozi was talking about, was you have to do things to the fullest extent when you first start doing them, because you don't know otherwise. You have to do something until you learn the boundary. For instance, I did, how should I put this? Let me flesh this out. I did the kind of Goggins mode thing for quite a long time, specifically Goggins mode. And at that, the thing I was trying to recollect was running. And I ran every single day, right? And when I ran every single day, invariably, there came a point in which I really injured myself, really badly injured myself, and I couldn't run or really do anything for like 3 or 4 months. And in that time, just after the injury, I carried on trying to run. And all I did at that point was just butcher myself more and more and more, and it just got worse. And that's why it took so long. It actually wasn't that bad of an injury. I just kept irritating it. And at that point, because it was my first time doing the Goggins thing, I didn't know otherwise, because I'd watched one of those videos and I'd seen that he'd run on broken feet and pretty much is Superman, and I thought, well, if he can do it, I can do it. It's not realistic. And with that, the idea here is that you do things to the fullest extent, and then you learn the boundary because you've done it to the fullest extent. You understand now, that's where the limit is. When I've run so much that my legs are not even working like they used to before. Fucking gay. You will, I'm going to cancel for that already. You will learn now that is where it's at. That's where it stops at, and you don't do it that way, right? And the same thing is here with self-improvement, in the sense that I can't get over that was so fucking stupid. I wish I could get rid of that. I honestly wish I could get rid of that, but I'm not going to. Just clip it at some point. When you do the self-improvement thing, you do have to kind of go all the way into the hedonism thing at some points, and all the way into the Goggins things at some points, and then you find the mid-ground in between the two, in which you learn to balance them both. Because it's the same thing with hard work as it is with play, or pleasure, whatever you want to call it. Because you'll realise, this is what happens with me, is I'll work towards something really hard, pretty much burn out, if not burn out, and then I'll go, I'm not doing anything. And at which point I'll sit on my phone, or I'll eat too much food, or I'll watch too much of certain sort of things, and I'll do things that I shouldn't have done, and I'll do them too much. And then you find yourself, you either go 100% that way or 100% that way, and it's when you're learning to do these things, you have to find the balance between the two. So what I want to kind of encapsulate today's video in is self-improvement is a very complicated journey. And at that, it's a very long journey. It takes a long time. This is not a year thing. This is not a 2-year thing. This is a lifetime. This is a way of being that is so ingrained and integral to your core that it's not as simple as putting it in a 30-second video and thinking that's the way it is. It's not. It is a long, long, long process that is boring, it's monotonous, it's dull, and it's hard. These videos do not even scrape the surface of this side of self-improvement. They do not touch on the fact that self-improvement is these things. They only glamorize it, which I'm for in some senses, because self-improvement is the way. You have to do it. With that, there needs to be a balance of when to be the self-improvement sort of guy and when to shut that off and when to just enjoy yourself. And with the enjoying yourself, you have to learn what it is that genuinely makes you relaxed and genuinely pieces you out. If you are someone who likes sitting with a Kit Kat or 10 and just sitting and doing nothing, and that's your form of relaxation, and you've been working hard with the self-improvement thing, this is where the three things I've spoken about in today's video come together and create the harmony and peace of the mind that self-improvement can give you. Is learning to enjoy things, learning to work hard at things, and learning how they can live like a happy little family. And that is 26 minutes of some, I hope, useful information.